So, ladies and gentlemen, today I'll be giving you my Champions League predictions for the rest of the tournament. Yes, the quarterfinals are coming up, and usually I give a separate video for every single stage of the tournament, but I figure now is a good time to finish the prediction series for the Champions League, at least for the log video format. I'm sorry for anyone who is disappointed about this, but I do really want to focus on international football now because we are so close to the likes of the Euros, the Copa America, so I might make some updated shorts regarding the Champions League, but in terms of long video format prediction videos, it is going to end here. But don't worry, I still will be doing this for the Europa League and Conference League as well this week. I'm just uploading each video quite late, literally the week all of these tournaments pick up again for this quarterfinal stage. Every single one of these matches, it is tough to predict a winner here, so I could easily go 0-4 in this video. But today I am joined with a special guest in case I do miss on a few predictions or pointers. Ped Talk Sports will be sharing his predictions as well. I'll leave a link to his channel in the description below. Make sure you check him out. He makes some fantastic video essays. And also make sure you drop another like on this video. Subscribe if you're new. And let's get into it. Starting off with Arsenal versus Bayern Munich. Now, if we're basing this on history, Bayern Munich looked to be the favorites. Last time these sides faced each other in the Champions League, it ended in 2 consecutive 5-1 victories for Bayern Munich. That was all the way back in 2017, and in 2015 we saw the same exact scoreline as well. But this was 7 years ago. Both of these sides have changed a lot throughout time, and recently as well. Bayern Munich continued to dominate Germany, winning so many consecutive Bundesliga titles in a row. Arsenal still didn't really have that giant leap in the Premier League, despite now doing very well and being in a massive title race with Liverpool and Manchester City, and having an interesting fight with City last season. They have still never won their domestic league, but this side has vastly improved over the past few years and are looking much more dominant compared to when they last faced Bayern Munich. Arteta tactically getting the best out of this side, lots of great individuality as well. They go through random spells of scoring loads of goals and barely conceding any. Meanwhile, Bayern Munich, for the first time in 10, 11 years, I kind of lost track on the top of my head, could potentially not win the Bundesliga title. Obviously, it's very hard to compete with Xabi Alonso's Bayer Leverkusen at the moment, who are still, at the time of this recording, undefeated. But Bayern Munich have slipped way too much recently and are not looking tactically at their best. Despite having some great individuality, for example, Harry Kane having a ridiculous amount of goals and assists in the Bundesliga, they have lost their last 2 consecutive matches, including last weekend to Heidenheim. Tuchel really just seems to be fed up with the job at this point. He's already announced that he's leaving at the end of the season, and even when it was still mathematically possible to redeem themselves in the Bundesliga, he said the title race is done. Now, of course, who knows? In terms of how these teams perform in this competition in particular, Bayern Munich definitely have a better track record overall. And Tuchel has also already made it to a Champions League final with PSG and won the Champions League with Chelsea. So for this tournament, it's different gravy for him. And their striker, of course, Harry Kane, who I already mentioned, used to play for Tottenham. He knows what he's getting into for this fixture against his former rival. Arsenal, despite being so dominant in some fixtures in the Premier League, they barely squeezed out against Porto in the round of 16. So who knows, maybe the Champions League just is still not their strongest suit, and Bayern Munich can once again take advantage of them massively, despite being so poor in the Bundesliga as of recently. However, I do think that Arsenal can turn things around finally. It's not going to be an easy task whatsoever. I am going to say that Arsenal do advance to the semifinals. Again, history does not suggest it, but they have really improved this year. Bayern Munich looking way too shaky. I think they have what it takes. I'll say the first leg finishes in a 1-0 victory, and then it is followed with a 1-1 draw at the Allianz Arena. Very close. Arsenal win 2-1 on aggregate. Obviously, we'll see, but let's get Ped's thoughts on this.
This is one of the best Arsenal teams we've seen in a very, very long time. They're defensively incredible. They're the best defensive team in the Premier League. They've allowed only an expected goals of 4.98 in 2024, and they passed the eye test. I mean, Saliba, Ben White, and Gabriel are incredible, and now they fixed their goalkeeping issues from last year. They got Raya in goal, much better than Ramsdale, and they can just defend any way that you want them, right? They can defend in a mid-block, they can sit back and counter, they can high press. They are a nuisance to play against. We saw it against Manchester City. To go to the Etihad and keep them 0-0, not let Haaland have basically any chances, not let Kevin De Bruyne do his thing with guys like Bernardo Silva, all these creative dudes around Phil Foden, and they shut him up. And Bayern Munich has been nowhere near as good as City's been. So it's very easy for Arsenal to stay defensively compact. They're going to attack in the first leg because they're at home. But defensively, I think that's where the difference maker is, because I still think a lack of a number 9 might be an issue for them if they get past Bayern Munich as they get deeper into the tournament. They don't have that guy, But if they stay defensively like this and they can get goals here and there from Kai Havertz, goals from Saka, Martinelli, Trossard, they should be fine. But it's defensively what makes them so impressive. You're not going to, I very much doubt it, that you're going to see an 8-2 result or a destruction like we've seen in previous years. Like I said, tactically very flexible. Rice can play as the 6, or they can play Jorginho there, move Rice up. They can play Havertz as the number 9 up top. They can play Havertz as a central midfielder. There's a lot of different stuff they can do. Jesus on the wing, Jesus up front. And I think because of that, it's going to be very difficult for Bayern to prepare because you don't really know which version of Arsenal you're going to get. This is one of the weakest Bayern teams we've ever seen. I think there will be small section of fans that'll say, oh, well, they actually haven't been that bad. Leverkusen's just been unbelievable. No, this is a very weak Bayern team. I think attacking-wise, they're fine. I mean, Kane is one of the most informed players in the world. He's going to be a front runner for the Ballon d'Or. He's exceptional, right? As much as people want to laugh about it, Kane has had nothing to do with why Bayern's been poor. They were poor last year when Thomas Tuchel came in midway through the season. They were poor then as well. They only won the Bundesliga last year because Borussia Dortmund had a historical collapse. This year, there is no team that's going to have a collapse. Leverkusen are very good, but Bayern Munich as a whole, they're not very good. Defensively, they can be shocking at times. So my prediction is I think Arsenal is going to win 1-0 at home in the first leg, and then I think they're going to win 2-1 at the Allianz to go through. So I have Arsenal as the winner.
Moving on now to Real Madrid versus Manchester City. At this point in recent times, a classic head-to-head match in this competition. Head-to-head, it is very even. Manchester City have won 4 of their matches. They drew 3 times, and Real Madrid have won 3 times. Their last meeting was last season as well, where Manchester City destroyed them at the Etihad in the second leg 4-0. And the season before that, we saw one of the most incredible comebacks in the Champions League, where Real Madrid scored 2 last-minute goals in the second leg, and City absolutely collapsed. They won 6-5 on aggregate. Back then, Manchester City were in some of the most convincing, outlandish form that it was too hard to knock them out. Now, they do go through some patches of form where they look to be a bit inconsistent here and there, but still some of the best individuality. Of course, Rodri is continuing to prove that he is the best CDM at the moment. Phil Foden as well is in the form of his life. Real Madrid have been going through a lot of injury crisis throughout the season and still sometimes lack an absolute proper number 9. But even with that going on, their individual talent continues to shine. Top of La Liga, we see the likes of Jude Bellingham clutching it so much for the side. Despite Man City not looking as electric and dominant compared to last season, there's no denying that they have still been in incredible form. As well as Real Madrid, you really have to admire how they've been adapting despite going through that injury crisis like I mentioned. Real Madrid also just have the Champions League in their DNA. It's really hard to doubt them in this competition no matter the circumstance. But Manchester City have caused them problems in the past, which Real Madrid have shown that they can adapt to, but still. For now, I am favoring Manchester City to advance to the semifinals. I'll say in the first leg, it finishes in a 1-1 draw at the Bernabeu, but then when it's at the Etihad in the second leg, Manchester City grab a 4-2 victory.
City obviously haven't been as dominant as they've been in previous seasons, at least domestically. But what we've learned about Manchester City is this is a team that when we get to the business end of the season, they can turn it up at any point. So although they haven't looked the most convincing, Haaland's not scoring, 50 goals like he did last year. Kevin De Bruyne was injured and came back. They're still an excellent team. Rodri is probably front runner for the Ballon d'Or. He's exceptional. There's a reason these guys haven't lost in like 420 days when Rodri's playing. Phil Foden has looked unbelievable, and he can show up in Champions League games. He can show up when they need him. Excellent player. The real question is, where's Pep going to play him? Is he going to take a risk, play Foden and De Bruyne as the 2 10s, or is he going to continue with Foden on the wing? It doesn't really matter. They just have too much firepower. You can't really look at other games and try and make a prediction in that regard. Haaland at any point can punish a team. So Real Madrid's going to have a lot on their hands. And one thing we know with Erling Haaland is even if he's not scoring, the gravity of just being there is going to create opportunities for other players. There is no Kyle Walker to deal with Vinny. I don't think so. I mean, he might make a miraculous recovery to play, but assuming there's no Kyle Walker, that's going to be a bit of an issue. Vinny is one of the best 1v1 wingers in the world. Walker is one of the few fullbacks that can match him with pace. He's got the physicality. They can try the center back approach. I mean, Akanji's a good defender, but that's going to be an advantage towards Real Madrid because now they can have Vinny run at the guy for 90 minutes, for 180 minutes across 2 legs. So I don't know which City team will show up, but all I know is that they can't take Madrid lightly just because they don't have a striker. It hasn't impacted the scoring before. Bellingham, Rodrigo, Vinny, Valverde, all these guys can come up with goals. So it'll be interesting to see. One thing I will say, though, is outside of the collapse in 2022, City has traditionally always gotten the better of Madrid. So I don't think it'll be that different this season. I see City going through. Madrid's not going to have that voodoo of having the second leg at the Bernabeu. First leg is at Madrid. I think it's going to end up being a 1-1 tie. I think City's going to play super defensive, put all the pressure on the second leg where they have the home crowd at the Etihad. So I think it's going to be 1-1. And then I think City is going to hit into next gear and win 3-1 at home. So I have City going through.
Moving on to PSG versus Barcelona. What a classic matchup this is as well in this competition. Even more of an even head-to-head record than Real Madrid versus Manchester City. Both these sides have beaten each other 4 times and also drawn 4 times. Last time in the 2020-21 season, PSG were able to beat Barcelona in one of the legs 4-1. But that Barcelona side was definitely struggling massively. Prior to that in 2016-17, let's not forget about that incredible comeback. And what makes this match so interesting is that Luis Enrique was in charge, and now he is managing PSG. Barcelona's last match in the Champions League looked to be somewhat questionable. I mean, they were coming up against Napoli, who were not in great form, while Barcelona at the time were not in great form themselves. They were able to get the best of them in the second leg, where they advanced to this round. And throughout that round of 16 matchup and after that, Barcelona have been doing very well. Their only goals conceded so far were once to Napoli in both of the legs. And they even had to play Atletico Madrid, where they won 3-0 away. Barcelona's attack has improved massively, there's no doubting that. But PSG, I mean, you can't ignore the likes of Kylian Mbappe. Despite all the Real Madrid rumors coming through, you can't ignore his numbers. He has still been proving that he is one of, if not the best forward in the world of football right now. Based on Barcelona's previous form in European football under Xavi, it looks to be that PSG are the slight favorites in this, but at the same time, PSG were, and to be fair, the group of death, but they did show some inconsistencies there, having to fight it out until the final match day to see if they were still in this competition. Let's also not forget that Dembele will be returning to face his former side. Who knows how he'll succumb to the pressure there, but he's definitely familiar with the players he'll be playing against. Won't be surprised no matter what happens here, but I am leaning towards PSG. I'm saying in the first leg, PSG went 2-0, and in the second, they grab another 2-1 victory. Would really love to see Barcelona prove me wrong, but I think despite PSG now knowing that they're going to be losing one of their best players, their best player, he's still going to give it their all for their last season and continue to prove that he can do it against the La Liga clubs, as they've also just knocked out Real Sociedad, who obviously on paper is not Barcelona, but you get the point.
If you asked me who was going to win months ago, I would have unanimously said PSG. But Barcelona has looked like a completely different team in 2024. Jules Koundé has gone back to right back, so the Barcelona defense looks like the solid one that we saw last year. Kubarsi, despite being 17 years old, has fit in like a glove in the back. He's not afraid of putting in a challenge. He's excellent on the ball. And then Lamine Yamal, at 16 years of age, is already one of, if not the best right winger on the planet. I would say he's third. He's probably right below Saka and Mohamed Salah in terms of just ability at beating your man and creating chances. Not overall, obviously, he still has a lot of work to do, but injuries have been an issue, right? There's going to be no Pedri. Frankie de Jong might be back by the time that they play. So they've been kind of rotating guys, right? They had Christensen playing holding midfield, Sergio Roberto, but it's hard to judge with PSG how good they are. Obviously, once again in Ligue 1, they're well ahead of their competition. I think Brest is like 15 points behind them. They have the highest goals scored in the league. I think there's going to be some argument that because Mbappe destroyed Barcelona in 2021, he might do it again. This is a very different team, right? If you go look back at the starting 11 for Barcelona, that team had Frankie de Jong playing center back. So I think Barcelona has one of the best profile of defenders to be able to deal with him, right? On Mbappe's side, it's going to be Jules Koundé, the right back, and Araujo to cover for him. And that's if Mbappe starts out on the left wing and they play Gonzalo Ramos up top. If they want to use Mbappe as the 9, it'll be a little bit different, but I still think that Barcelona has the profile of players. I think outside of Mbappe, PSG is not that threatening. Donnarumma can always make some mistakes in the back. I don't necessarily think Carlos Soler and Fabio Ruiz and these guys are that great of a midfield, especially considering even with the injuries, Barcelona still have Gundogan in their midfield. I mean, that's a, dare I say, world-class player in the center of the park. It'll still be a tightly contested game, though. Like I said, Barcelona by no means has shown any indication that they can come in and have a super dominant performance in Europe, but I think they have just enough to get the job done. So I'm predicting that first leg, I actually think PSG is going to win 2-1, but then I think Barca's going to come, and I'm going to say they're going to win 2-0 at home.
In the final match, we're looking at Dortmund versus Atletico Madrid. Very tough one. Let's start off with the fact that most people wrote off Dortmund since the beginning of this competition, as they were in the group of death. They just bottled the Bundesliga to Bayern Munich, losing some key players. It looked to be so doubtful for this side, yet they topped the group and now they have made it to the quarterfinals. They once again have the chance to prove themselves. Atletico Madrid are very inconsistent this season, but that being said, they sometimes pull through when it matters, including in the last round of the competition where they knocked out Inter Milan on penalties. That is massive, as Inter Milan are looking to be one of the most informed teams in Europe this season. Their attack has been next level with the likes of Lautaro Martinez and Thuram, and Atletico Madrid were still able to shut them down. The faith this club has in their manager Diego Simeone is fantastic, and he's fell short so many times in this competition, mostly due to Cristiano Ronaldo. He's going to want to give it his all now that he is out of the picture, and definitely has somewhat of a doable path to potentially make it to the final. Atletico Madrid's such a weird team to analyze, man, because they're able to just stop giants like Inter Milan from succeeding, and then they just go disappearing in some matches. We saw them lose to Barcelona 3-0 recently, like I mentioned, but prior to beating Inter Milan, they also lost to Cadiz 2-0, and at the end of February, they lost to Athletic Club Bilbao 3-0. This one is so 50-50, and it's one of those matches where I see both of these sides winning in one of the legs. I'll say in the first leg, Atletico Madrid grab a 2-0 victory, and then in the second, Dortmund grab a 1-0 victory themselves. Not enough. Atletico Madrid advance to the next round. Way too tough one to call, so let's see what Ped says.
What's funny is that both of these teams are actually doing really poorly domestically in their own leagues. Dortmund is 5th. Atletico Madrid is 4th in a league that's historically seen as a 3-horse race. Even 3 horses is a bit of an exaggeration. It's usually 2 horse between Barca and Real Madrid, but I don't think anybody expected Atletico Madrid to be below Girona. So they're both struggling. Dortmund, I do think they don't have the firepower to beat Atletico Madrid. I think the first leg, they're actually lucky that the first leg is at the Metropolitano. Atletico Madrid is exceptional at home. I think they've lost 1 game. They're super solid defensively. They're going to have the better players. I think Antoine Griezmann, Memphis Depay, a better midfield. I think they're going to win. I think they're going to win 2-0 at home in the first leg, and then they're going to come in and absolutely park it. I just don't think Dortmund has the players. I think Adeyemi and Sancho are good, but they're very inconsistent wingers. I can see them at home putting together a really good performance, but I think at the Metropolitano against a Simeone side that's very aggressive, some of the best attacking teams in the world have struggled. I mean, I remember City on their route to winning the Champions League. They really struggle in that fixture. So Dortmund is nowhere near one of the best attacking teams in the world anymore. So I think they're really going to struggle. As I said, prediction, Atletico Madrid wins the first leg 2-0. Second leg 1-1 at Dortmund, but Atletico Madrid is going to go through. As far as the rest of the brackets, I think Arsenal is going to beat Bayern, like I said, and then I think they're going to end up losing to City in the semifinal. So I think City's going to get to the final. On the other end, I think Atletico Madrid is going to beat Dortmund, and I think Barca is going to beat PSG. So it's going to be Barcelona versus Atletico Madrid. And I'm going to say that despite the fact that Barcelona has destroyed Atletico Madrid time and time again this season, I think Atletico Madrid is going to win, and it's going to be a City Atletico final, which will be, pretty interesting profile of games. You got City that's dominant possession-wise, really good on the ball against Atletico Madrid, who play very aggressive, very solid defensively, counter-attacking. I don't know how entertaining it's going to be, but I just feel like Atletico Madrid have the right ingredients that you're looking for in knockout football to get a good result. I know Barcelona's destroyed them every time in the league, but Barcelona is also historically a very good team in the league. In Europe, it's just a different beast. I don't know what it is. I think Atletico Madrid have that juju, that dark arts. It's going to be them versus City, and I think City is going to win their back-to-back Champions League. I think they got the firepower. I think they'll know how to handle the game, and because it's one leg, it's not going to look pretty, but I think City's going to win it.
That first semi-final match between Atletico Madrid versus PSG, I wouldn't say this is a comfortable road to the final for PSG, but definitely one where they're not facing any side that looks to be causing them all the most massive trouble. Maybe Atletico Madrid can shut down PSG defensively if they're on their game. Maybe we'll see a 0-0 draw in one of the legs and then 2-0 in the second for PSG. So I'm saying they advance to the final. And then for Arsenal versus Manchester City, we've seen these sides face each other recently already, finishing in a 0-0 draw. And also they're currently battling it out in the Premier League title race. Although Arsenal were able to beat Manchester City in the Premier League back in October, I think City are going to be determined to potentially go back-to-back in this competition. So I'm saying they make it to the final. Arsenal very much improving, and although if they do make it this far, it'll be very impressive if they beat Bayern Munich. I still think it's going to take them some time to be overall more adept in this competition. We'll see how well that ages. But But then for that final match between PSG and Manchester City, not a final I would be very happy to see, to be honest. PSG, they've never won it themselves. Manchester City were on that list of sides to never win the Champions League, but they've just won it last season. I think if this is how the bracket lays out, they can go back to back. I think they can defeat PSG in the final just 1-0. But yeah, those are our final Champions League predictions. Let me know who you agree with more, and also your predictions if they're totally off from either of ours in this video. Like I said, I'll be releasing something very similar for the Europa League and the Conference League, so make sure you subscribe to stay tuned for that. I'll see you all very, very soon. Take care. Boa noite.